Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin, and I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
My name is Stephanie Orlina. I am a transformational life coach and transformational life coach, and I am in San Diego, California.
We want to thank you so much for listening or watching, however you're viewing or listening to us this week. We often mention Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks on this podcast. If you're not familiar with those names, Esther is a speaker and author who channels Abraham. Abraham is described as a group of entities from beyond our physical world who share their wisdom by speaking through Esther at workshops and speaking opportunities around the world. You can Google those names or search on YouTube, but you can also find out more about them online at abraham-hicks.com. Each week we start our discussion here on the podcast from a different jumping off point, and this week we're going to start off talking about a topic that Stephanie has been wanting to chat about, which I actually don't know what it is yet, so yeah, wonderful surprise.
How would you feel if you knew that you could get to have what you want?
Awesome.
And that would be such an attractive vibration, right?
Yeah. Can I?
Yes. Yeah, of course, right?
I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah. Yet. Okay, so you're being playful, yet you know this. Yet do we do that?
When we say we, are we talking me?
You and I. When I say
because
we,
I do not always walk around in the belief that I can get what I want. Sometimes I am walking around with a false belief that I cannot get a certain thing that I want or certain things that I want.
Right. So that's why you've said it all, because when I say we,
this was a great episode.
I am including myself in that.
And exactly 2 minutes 40 seconds long.
And I wanted to know, like, how would you feel? And I loved your answer. I'd feel great.
Yeah.
And then in feeling great, one, I'll feel great. That's always a good thing, right? And then two, I'm being a vibrational match to what I want because I'm feeling good. And therefore, lots of cool stuff's going to happen, including the thing that I want. And yet, like you said, I would just walk around being, what did you say exactly?
Awesome.
Feeling great? You're feeling awesome. I do that more often now than, in my life.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. However, like you said, some of the time I'm walking around thinking I'm not going to get what I want, or I'm worried I'm not going to get what I want, or because I don't know how it can happen, I think it's not going to happen, and things like that. But I was listening to an Abraham the other day, and I thought to myself, wow, how would I feel if I knew that I would get to have what I want? Like,
well, the thing is too, we all know examples. I mean, probably have examples in ourselves, but we definitely can think of other times with other people where, let's say you talk to a friend or a family member and they just landed a job that they think they're going to enjoy and they're very excited about. And the job hasn't started yet, but they got the offer, they signed the offer letter, whatever. They got told they were hired by the manager and they're going to start in 2 weeks or something like that. They're on cloud nine. When you ask them about it, they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so whatever." If somebody just started dating somebody for a week or two and it seems to be going really well, most of us have a tough time keeping a smile off our face in that scenario, right?
Yeah,
and it's not like we've had maybe 2 or 3 dates. We don't know what the future is going to be, but we have that belief that oh, I think this is going to go well, and it's like we have trouble keeping the joy down. Like if somebody knows they're going to receive a large amount of money, at some point, like, oh my God, I did my taxes and I'm going to get a $3,000 refund in a couple of weeks. It's like it's like you can't help smiling. That feeling is just in you of like the belief that it's coming, and it feels amazing. It feels great, right? So the trick with the art of allowing is how do you feel that same way in your body, in your mind, in your emotions, with your vibration, when you don't have like an external, already manifested piece of evidence, like when it's just
But
something
that's just it. You just said it, because in all of those examples, they hadn't happened
well, right,
yet. So
right,
then we would just do the same thing, right?
right, yeah,
It's like, oh my God, I have a boyfriend and I absolutely love him.
yeah.
And he's digging on my booty too, or like, oh my God. That's what I say. And I
We
say
got
that
to You got
because,
to tell me, because
okay,
we have to do a warning at the beginning if we're going to use adult
and I,
language.
and I say that because Allison Armstrong, search her. She's amazing. We're talking about men in our friend time briefly. And she, men and women are different. And we've said this for years, but she really breaks down what men are. And then she had this workshop that I did. It was a weekend workshop, and it was celebrating men satisfying women. And it was a love fest on men. It was like to interview a woman before that workshop and then after. Incredible, just because a lot of women unfortunately don't have a lot of good thoughts and feelings about men. I actually love men. Um and so damn it. I forgot what we were talking about. But
It was your booty comment to get your
okay,
brain
so
going in a certain direction.
she says, because thank you so much. Because she said, if you're not with a man who's digging on your booty, you need to leave.
I know what the
Because
title of this episode is, by the way.
because she was, I believe she was in a marriage where her husband wasn't. She was definitely digging on his booty, but he was not. And then she learned, she started, I think it was after that marriage had ended, she started interviewing men just really nonchalantly, and then it grew into her company. But now she's married to a man who is totally digging on her booty. And when I say that, I mean, like, yes, he loves your butt and he loves everything about you. Like, and I'm sure one of us, if not all of us, have had some experience with that on either end, where you're just like, it wouldn't matter what they were doing or how they are, where they have makeup on, whether they're dressed in a tux, whatever, that you're just like, think that they are all that and more. And I didn't have that in my last marriage. And I believe my first husband felt that way about me, but I didn't feel that way about him. And so it is absolutely like my bottom line, like it needs to be mutual. Otherwise, it's a no-go. I will never do that again.
I think, at least in American culture, I think it's kind of neat, and sometimes it can be really funny that there are generalities about the two, you know, males and females that you can kind of culturally talk about or joke about, and we do have things in common. Um, most American stand-up comedians have made most of their career out of like just pointing out humorous differences that tend to be in common generally between men and women. But I also think that for me, I can, when I'm the times that I've been single in my life as an adult and like, looking to date or whatever, I can really get caught up in those sort of overgeneralities, both at a cultural level and say, well, all women, women, they blah, blah, blah. Or like my personal history, I can extrapolate that out, which is a lot of times it's like 3 or 4 people. Um, and I'm saying, oh, well, women do this, and every time I date a woman, she does this, and da 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 da. And it's like, well, that's 4 people on a planet of 7 billion, like, and I really feel like I understand there are these common generalities sometimes, but it's also really important for me, especially from the art of allowing perspective when I am single and I'm dating and looking for someone, it's to be like, there's a woman out there who's different than every woman I've ever met, and we're gonna have a completely different dynamic,
Right,
because
yeah,
she's different.
yeah.
Not every woman has this, thing that, some sort of pattern where and that's not to say that people don't have patterns and who they attract.
Oh God, we
I
totally
think a lot of
do.
us do,
Yeah, we do. We
but
absolutely do.
each each new voyage with a new
Experience.
person
Yeah.
can be its own new thing. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be tied to like, well, I've always ended up with people who, I've heard people say, oh, well, I always end up with men who drink too much. And it's like, well, you know what? There's a lot of men in the world who don't drink too much,
Yeah.
but if you
Yeah.
keep going around with that vibration and that belief,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
oh, every time I date somebody, I find out they drink too much. It's like, that vibration, the
Yeah.
way I think
Totally.
about it is the
Yeah.
universe is just gonna meet that and just give you, oh,
So going back to what you had said is
mm,
that they were feeling hopeful in all those situations that you gave
yeah,
examples to. The actual thing hadn't occurred yet, but they
right,
were on their way to, and so they felt hopeful of.
right.
And we can do that. I can do that with anything.
I think
Um,
that's what's one thing that's really fascinating to me is, and I like it might be challenging for me to explain this clearly and simply, but because we've talked about the example of the Amazon order,
yes,
like you don't
yeah,
keep checking Amazon to see if your thing is on its way because
yeah,
once you
yeah,
place the order, you have this confidence that it'll come. But what we don't understand is like that confidence is not happening on the Amazon website. It seems that way, but the confidence is actually a decision you're making. You're placing the order on Amazon and you're deciding, I am going to trust that it will show up, right? It seems like it's the Amazon order form on the website that convinces you, but what's actually happening is you're convincing yourself based on that
yeah,
information.
yeah, yeah.
So it's much trickier and more challenging, I think, to do it when you don't have something concrete like that, like an order form that says, yes, here's your order and it's on its way.
But there is the order
Well,
form.
you're right, and it's just different. Yeah, it's
And
different.
that's what I'm talking about. Because, I listen to Abraham. I've gotten to the point for my meditation in the morning. I'll, put
Hmm.
my earbuds in and I'll go to YouTube and I'll put on one of the all love
Hmm.
little like 5 minute, 10, whatever. And I'll put it on, I'll just close my eyes, lie down and listen. And it's like, being reminded every day, like it's done. Being reminded that when I ask, spirit is on it. Being reminded that it's inevitable. Being reminded that my job, I wrote this one down the other day. I don't remember if I read it here or not, but it's like, I've already done the hard part, which is living the contrast. And that is an interesting sentence right there that I feel like we could do a whole episode on. I've already done the hard part, which is living the contrast. 'Cause think about that. I think of the hard part as like making it happen or taking the actions or, fill in the blank. And it's like to think of that I've already lived the contrast. Like, for
Can you
instance, go
sorry,
ahead.
can you just quickly briefly explain what contrast is for people
I'll,
listening
I'll
to the first
give an
time?
example because I was going to give this an example. So currently I'm renting a room from a woman in Bay Park. And she has 2 dogs, and I love dogs. However, her dogs bark a lot, had barked a lot. And so I was living a lot of contrast when where I used to live, it was very quiet in my home. Like, the dogs next door barked a lot, but it was like I didn't live there, so I was okay. But here to have it so closely, like when they would bark, I'd be in the kitchen and then they hear something and their bark is real shrill. And so that contrast of living something that either bothers me, that upsets me, that I don't like. So her dogs constantly barking at that time was contrast for me. In those moments, in the first moment that I had that, I energetically was like, I don't want to live somewhere where there's dogs barking. I want these dogs to stop barking. I want it to be quiet. So I've already done the hard part, which is living the contrast. I will say that contrast was hard. And I'm happy to say, and I shared this with Collin, I thought he already knew this. I got a download about 6 weeks ago of how to nip that in the bud. And I have to say, if it was at 99%, oh my God, horrific, now it's down by 80%. It's like 20% of the time where they're barking, and then now it doesn't even affect me the way it used to. So then the other it says, I've already done the hard part, which is living the contrast. Now my part is fun. Now my part is easy. Now my part feels good. What? That's my part? Go have fun. It's easy. Feel good. Oh, hell yes. I'm getting on that train. Mhm. So one of the things that I've done recently is I have it in my phone. It's one of the reminders that comes up on my alarms, and it says, what fun place today? Where is it exactly? What fun thing? Oh, where are you? Which happy place today? And so now I just kind of do like, what do I want to do that's fun today? Sometimes it's go play Get Hooked. You and I played that, right? Yes, we did.
Many times.
At Dave and Buster's, or maybe it's go to Calumet Street Park. If you find me on social media, you follow me on social media, you've seen my videos of Calumet Street Park in the ocean, or go watch the train or ride the train or what have you. But
But for folks who don't know about the art of allowing, or they're just starting to practice it, that's the tricky part, right? Which is you have the contrast experience, which contrast just means, you experience something or see something or have something happen that you don't like, just
you don't like or you don't want. Yeah.
and our typical response to contrast is to get into a negative mindset about whatever the thing is that triggered the contrast, right? Like if you um, if you have a neighbor who you don't like, and they're always blowing their leaf blower in their yard at 5 a.m. on a Saturday, and you hate that, the more the easiest thing to do is to complain about it to your family, to your friends, lie in bed when it wakes you up on Saturday mornings and just be like, oh my God, this guy with his freaking leaf blower,
Yeah.
and then just on Monday morning when you go to work, people are like, how are your weekend? I'm like, oh my God, I got off to a terrible start. I got this guy next to me. Blah, 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 blah. Like that's what's easiest to do. And that's sort of what we're trained to do a lot of times. But
Right.
the art of allowing trick is, that happens. Okay, you've identified like, really don't like the loud sound of a leaf blower in my ear at 5 a.m. on a Saturday.
Yeah, right.
But I'm not gonna focus on the negative and stew in it and just like marinate in that. I'm going to go to the beach and have a blast and relax and listen to the waves, and we think like, well, how the heck is that gonna fix the leaf blower problem? And it's like,
It's
it's one of
not
those things.
because it's not your job. It's not my job to fix it.
Right, right.
And that's where I've been taught it is my job to fix it. It's my job to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's my job to know how. It's my job to make it happen. And all of that is erroneous. Like,
yes. And I'm giving that example. I don't mean that you can't like politely go to your neighbor and say, hey, is there any way maybe you could delay it an hour or two on Saturday mornings? Like that's always an option. I'm kind of in that example, it would be like if you
yeah,
had that
no,
conversation and the neighbor just kept doing it. It's like, no,
yeah,
I mean, I got to do it at 5. I got other things to do on Saturday, and they just keep doing it. That's where we feel like, oh no, I'm trapped in this situation. It's not going to change. I hate it. Da, 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 da. But there is a solution, even in that case, which is, shift your vibration away from the negative to the positive. Just feel good. Just whatever it takes to feel naturally good, do that. Whether it's music or dancing or your favorite TV show or your favorite funny movie or going to the beach or whatever. Yeah.
Well, so I had an example. I was telling you in friend time that, the dog situation has changed drastically and it's so much better. It's a non-issue at this point, which is a miracle because I never thought it would be. And then something else came up in my living situation recently, and I was like, oh my God. And then it was like, oh, wait a minute. There was an answer for the dog thing. There's a solution for this.
Yeah.
And that felt really good. I was like, wow. Yeah. And then within days of thinking that thought, a solution came about. And I was buying this item for another reason. And then I realized once I got it, I was like, oh my God, this takes care of that thing I was talking about. That, and I was in awe. And so it is a mind shift, because I was with my sister on Friday visiting my mom, and we were together like a month ago and spent like a long time together. And And I was talking a little bit about the dog thing, and since then that the situation has corrected itself. And so when I was with her on Friday, I started to tell a story, and then I'm like, no, I don't want to talk about that. And
Mm,
and I've done that a couple of times, and
yeah.
I'm like, whoa, like physically said, I was gonna start to complain, and then I was like, just said out loud, no, I don't want to talk about that. And I was like, and changed the story. Started talking about something else. It was super cool.
Like you and I don't, I mean, this started when I began as a client of your life coaching, but it's continued through our friendship to today and beyond, which is that we don't have bitch fests. Like we don't do the let's complain about something, and but there are times where even like here when we do friend time before the podcast on Sundays where you're like, tell me something good. And I'm like going through my brain. I'm like, that's negative. That's contrast. That's something that pissed me off. Like, I'm like, you know what, Stephanie, you tell me something good first. And then you know, so
Yeah, you're
you and
really
I
good at
have
that.
that. I mean, I feel like when I'm talking to you, I just now automatically go like, yeah, I'm not gonna do a complain festival with Stephanie. And at least with the rest of the people in my life, I still have people that I do it with, but I still have that like alarm bell that I think you were talking about, which is like sometimes it doesn't happen until I've gotten into it for a couple minutes, but then I'm like, oh, I can feel myself like this
Right?
isn't necessary. Like I'm
You
not I'm
felt
not
it.
healthily venting emotions here. I'm
Yeah.
complaining about this bad situation, this contrast, and I'm creating more of it by diving into it and complaining with this other person and getting them to tell me stories of their neighbor and what they hate that they do on the weekend. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like I'm getting better and better at stopping myself with
You
other people.
feel it, right? That
Yeah,
uncomfortableness.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
still like this, oh, it would feel good for a few moments to not good, but like it would feel satisfying
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
few
Yeah.
moments to like complain with this person who I know
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
indulge me and complain back. But it's like, yeah, but unless you want more of that thing, if you want more of
Yeah.
that thing, by all
Go
means,
for
get
it.
into that
Yeah, because you will
vibration,
get more of it. Yeah.
swim
Yeah.
around in it. Yeah, whatever you want to do. But
Well, I feel like we got off track a little bit because coming back to this, how would you feel if you knew that you get to have what you want?
yeah,
Like, and I think it's a practice, even like, when I started to complain the other day and I was like, nope, I don't want to do that.
yeah,
And I think this would be the same thing,
yeah,
is like, okay, just start practicing the feeling of, oh, I already have it. Oh,
yeah.
it's coming. Oh, I
Well,
get to have that.
the thing that you mentioned many times on in our conversations and on the podcast is saying something to yourself like, I wonder what interesting creative way the universe is going to resolve this leaf blower problem for me.
Yeah.
Because that orients you towards, oh, it's going to get solved. It's like placing the Amazon order. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wonder how that's going to get resolved positively.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I went through some stuff with my work situation. My paid work situation recently, and it was really crazy. And it would have been very easy to say like, oh, this is terrible and this is a bad thing. And both myself, you, and my other friends that are aware of this kind of stuff, we're all saying like, oh geez, I wonder how this is going to work out great for you. And it really
Mhm.
has for the most part. And
In what ways?
I don't know if I want to get into specifics of that
Okay. Okay.
for legal purposes, but
Okay.
yeah, no, there was a situation where I might lose some work, paid work, and lose a lot of income, uh, at least temporarily, and then that hasn't happened at all. Uh,
Awesome.
yeah, and other aspects sort of like that, but yeah,
Cool.
but that's the
That's
thing. Like
great.
all the way through that thing, it's not that it wasn't stressful because there was a lot of ambiguity, there was a lot of uncertainty.
Right.
But you, me, Kelly, I was talking to about it. We were all just like, "Oh, I wonder how this is all for your greater good." And some days it was hard to grab onto that, but it was like it was
Sure.
always there. Of like, "Oh yeah, so for somehow this is all for the
Mm,
best," like, and it really has
so,
almost already gone full circle to a good
oh
place. So,
God, and that's why I love this work so much, because
yeah,
it's so much better to live from this place than where I was.
Yeah.
And not to say where I was 20 years ago or 15 years ago wasn't good, because that led me to here eventually.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go back. Like I
Yeah.
like this, I love having this information and be able to practice the art of allowing, and to, when I'm not feeling good, to like soothe myself,
Mhm.
and to be able to listen to Abraham in the morning, and get, because having Nibbles with me right now, sometimes I can't meditate right away. He needs to go out. And so,
Mhm.
and then I started getting ready, and I could, my thinking was like all like not positive. I was like, oh, that feels yucky. Like, I'm like, I just want to hear Abraham in my ears to remind me of what's true, and what to focus on. And so
Great topic. Great discussion. Thanks for bringing that up. I'm glad we talked
was
about
he
that.
digging on your booty? Is that the title?
That is the title. That is absolutely the title. We're so happy that you joined us for our conversation today about digging on your booty and other topics. We want to remind you that right now we're posting a brand new episode every Monday morning for you. We truly appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support us. All that helps. And all our social media links, including Stephanie's, where you can see her in these amazing San Diego locations, and our email address are down in the doodly-doo in the YouTube description below. We wish you a happy and abundant and booty-filled week, and we look forward to you joining us again on the next episode of Co-Creation Station. Bye, everybody.
Bye.